coordinator and information and referral coordinators with the APDA for Nassau County. And I am happy to introduce to you, just got a pop-up message, there you go. Adam Flatow. So Adam Flatow is the owner of Senior Care Authority of Long Island. Senior Care Authority is a full-service senior living placement agency and elder care consulting firm. They take a hands-on approach in working with families to find the most appropriate living and care solutions for seniors on Long Island, as well as helping families obtain all the resources and answers necessary for Long Island seniors to live a safe and fulfilling life. Adam has gone through this journey personally too many times, which is what catapulted him into this business. As a certified senior advisor, certified dementia practitioner, and a member of the board of directors of the Alzheimer's Association, Adam is uniquely positioned to understand all that is involved with the aging process. Helping families at every stage of the process is now a passion of Adam's. And this passion is why he started the Beyond Driving with Dignity program on Long Island. In addition to the placement business, he now educates families on how to tackle the difficult conversations associated with diminishing driving skills, which includes driving self-assessment programs. The purpose of the Beyond Driving with Dignity program is to extend an older driver's safe driving career and help them realize when it would be best to plan for retiring from driving. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Gloria. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for attending and joining us. I hope you get some good information out of this. The Beyond Driving with Dignity program was actually started in 2008 by Matt Gerwell, who is a ex-Ohio State trooper. And it became a passion of his to help families extend their driving careers and, quite frankly, try and reduce all too many fatalities and injuries that he's seen on the job for many, many years as a state trooper. If I start referring to the Beyond Driving Dignity program as the BDD for short, please excuse me, but the BDD program has been designed to serve as a kind of a vital tool to facilitate older drivers and their families as they make appropriate decisions regarding the future of their safe driving career. It is not meant to solely stop people from driving. It is meant to literally extend a person's safe driving career. Of course, there are times during these self-assessment processes where we encounter certain circumstances where it might be best for somebody to consider retiring from driving, but that is left up to that individual after these self-assessment programs that we conduct through Senior Care Authority and Beyond Driving with Dignity professionals. So with that, I'd love to get started on the presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Is that working now?
Good to go.
All good? All right, excellent. Okay. Let me just move something out of here. Excuse me for a second. Okay. All right, great. So thanks again. The purpose of today is to provide you with facts, true stories, tips, and tools to help you extend your safe driving career. We will cover signs of diminishing driving skills and offer some solutions as well. There's quite a bit of information here. I am combining two separate presentations into this one presentation. So as Gloria had said earlier, please let's do our best to try and keep questions to the end, but by all means, put them in the chat whenever you're ready. So it's important to understand that I am here to help. We're not passing a hat around, collecting keys or anything like that. This is a process to hopefully help you extend your driving career. Although you may be getting a little bit older, and we all do, because it certainly beats the alternative, someday your driving skills, whether they be cognitive or physical, may start to slip. As long as you stay aware of these diminished skills and you make the appropriate adjustments in your driving behavior, you can actually extend your driving career. Perfect example is, I'm sure some of us right now no longer drive at night. It's just too difficult. Well, that's us being self-aware of a potential hazard by driving at night. So we stop doing that. There are many instances that we're going to cover that are very similar to that. This is not about older drivers being bad drivers and younger drivers being good drivers. There are plenty of older drivers I would happily get in the car with. And believe it or not, I'm sure you do believe it, there are plenty of younger drivers that I won't go near. I'm not getting in the car with many of them. This is not about just getting older. This is about identifying your skills and being self-aware. There's actually more accidents based on raw numbers with younger drivers. However, older drivers are involved in more accidents per mile driven. This is a very important statistic to understand. This has nothing to do with who's a good driver or who's a bad driver or who is wrong in a crash. This is simply because as we age and we become more vulnerable to severe injury or death. We get frail. It just happens. It's a fact of life. But in a two-car fatal collision where one driver is 70 or older, that older driver is 3.5 times more likely to be killed. These are scary, I understand it, but it's important that we do understand these so we know how important it is to understand what the risks are associated with us getting behind the wheel or even getting into a car. Okay, here's a perfect example of a true story. It's unfortunate, but 2 elderly women who lived in the same apartment building were killed in a crash the morning a few years ago, according to the coroner. The police said the car driven by a 24-year-old on Route 873 collided with another car just before 9:30 in the morning. The driver of the car, car with the older women in it, 74 and 83, unfortunately passed away. That did not happen to the driver of the other car, the younger gentleman. This was, again, not because anybody was right or wrong in this. This was simply because they were of a certain age where they just become a little bit more frail and susceptible to injury and death. Drivers 85 and older are 9 times more likely to die in a car crash than people that are 25 to 69. That's according to the American Medical News. Okay, it just becomes more and more important to stay self-aware of your driving skills as you age. So what are some warning signs of diminishing skills? Normally I'd love to open this up and ask some questions, but it's a little difficult during a Zoom presentation. So I'm going to read a few of them, but and any one of these by itself may not be something to stop driving because of, but hopefully if you are experiencing any of these, it does trigger your self-awareness and allow you to evaluate your driving situation. So abrupt lane changes, braking or accelerating with very, very quickly, more frequent close calls or dents or scrapes on the car or on fences, mailbox, garage doors. That kind of reminds me of a personal story. I have a 98-year-old uncle. His name is Seymour, and Seymour still drives. He's 98 years old, still drives, lives by himself, and he's just in fantastic shape. He exercises, his cognitive ability is fine. There's no issues. I went to go visit him a few weeks ago, and I happened to see his car, and his car was all scraped up along the passenger side. Now that got me to be very, very concerned about that. And I asked him about it, and he actually had a legitimate reason for what happened. He was visiting his brother at the cemetery. Unfortunately, he had passed away a few years ago. And his car kind of got blocked in by some other cars. He had no other place to go. So he had to try and squeeze through a very narrow area. He saw that he was going to scrape up against some bushes. So he knew what he was doing, but he had to get out, and this was his only option. He scraped up his car on the way out. I had that conversation with him. That sounded fine, not a problem. Continue driving. There's no other issues with him. But he was self-aware, and he identified that he had to do something in order to get out of that specific situation. Totally fine. Drifting into other lanes. Okay, there's a study out of Toronto that says those who are experiencing memory loss for whatever reason are more prone to drifting out of their lanes. They are lacking an ability to have lane presence. And that can get a little bit scary. And it's, again, something that we need to be cognitive about. More conflict on the roads. Are people honking at you? Is there frustration from other drivers? Are you oblivious to the frustration of other drivers, not understanding why they're honking? Are you getting lost? Not maybe more often or at all. That's a big one. And we're going to touch on that one in a little bit. And then those that care for you, your loved ones, friends, are they reluctant to get into the car with you? If you're experiencing any of these signs, you might benefit to evaluate your own driving skills. And that, again, is what this is all about. So what can an older driver do to continue driving safely? Well, here's some good tips, all right? Very important things here. Stay on familiar roads, drive shorter distances, stay off of the heavily traveled roads, drive only during the daytime hours if you're experiencing some difficulty with driving at night, avoid rush hour, avoid bad weather. These are great suggestions to help extend one's driving career. I'm gonna share a personal story with you here. While those are great suggestions, they're not foolproof or fail-proof, okay? I remember when I was probably 8 or 10 years old, every Sunday, I used to go to my grandparents' house. They lived in Seaford, and I would go with my grandparents. My grandfather would drive, and we would drive the same route all the time to the Sunrise Mall. There was a restaurant there called the Harvest House. It was an awesome cafeteria style, and I remember getting chocolate pudding all the time. And it was just fantastic. It was a great experience with me as a little boy with my grandparents. There was one time when we were going, and again, very familiar road. My grandfather was driving down Hicksville Road and was going to go make a left onto Sunrise Highway. Well, he made the left, but he made the left into oncoming traffic. So we were driving for a short distance before he realized it, but we were driving into oncoming traffic on Sunrise Highway. He crossed the median. We got back. There was some serious damage to his car, but we were okay. We got back home. My parents picked me up. They found out the story. That was the last time that I was driving with my grandfather. And shortly thereafter, he did realize that it was time for him to retire from driving. So familiarity is a great thing, but it's not always a foolproof way of extending your driving career. Again, be self-aware. So again, just talking about this, these tips, as good as they may be, may not always have the result of extending someone's career. The National Highway Traffic and Safety Association says that Americans are outliving their safe driving abilities by 7 to 10 years. This means that all of us can expect the day to come when it's no longer safe for us to drive. Okay, we need to be aware and listen to people that care about us, about what's going on. But these tips, they're good, all right? They'll hopefully extend your driving career. So please do your best to adhere to them, okay? Older drivers are sometimes better historians than they are visionaries, all right? It's important that we listen and not just hear what comments others are making about our driving. Because we were safe drivers for the past 65 years does not mean that we're going to be safe drivers for the next 65 years, okay? The effects of natural aging process, and of course, the potential of other ailments as well, there will come a time when we need to retire from driving. This is an important slide. This is about intersections, and they're probably the most dangerous place on the road. The Department of Transportation defines intersections as planned points of conflict in any roadway system. If you want to get into an accident, drive through intersections all day. And for older drivers, this can be even more dangerous because as we age, our depth perception starts to falter as well. You think intersections are dangerous? Well, making left-hand turns is even more dangerous. Increasing by 8% every year after we turn 65, left turns getting into an accident, it's gonna happen. Be extra careful, okay? As we age, it just becomes more difficult to estimate the speed of oncoming traffic, which contributes to these really startling statistics.
What? On statistic.
Okay. Another way that we can absolutely extend our driving career is exercise. All right, a Yale study concluded that safe, well-tolerated exercises do help elderly drivers. I'm going to go back to my Uncle Seymour. He's 98 years old. He walks miles every day, still rides his bicycle, exercises all of the time. As much exercise as we can do will enhance and extend our safe driving careers. So what can I do to also try and extend my safe driving career? Well, there's classes at AAA offers them, AARP, they offer mature driving lesson programs. Driving alternatives vary from locality to locality and from situation to situation. Some alternatives, Uber, taxis, rideshare programs, municipal options, senior transportation companies, and of course, family and friends. When we start going through the self-awareness process and we see that things might be getting a little bit iffy, start planning for when it is time to retire. Don't wait for that time to happen and not have a plan. There's no reason for older drivers who do wind up retiring from driving to lose their independence. Okay, there are good alternatives. We just need to plan for them. Excuse me. So a person's chronological age is not an absolute predictor of driving ability, but its impact cannot be denied. There's no set age to stop driving. We all age differently. And what we need to do is, and you've heard me say this before, is be self-aware and listen to those who care about us, okay? They're not saying it just because they want us to stop driving. They care about us. So it's important for us to listen and plan accordingly. By 2030, 20% of the population is expected to be older than 65. According to the US Department of Transportation, an average of 500 older adults are injured every single day in crashes. The National Highway Traffic Safety Association says that older drivers can expect to outlive their safe driving ability by 7 to 10 years.
Something about.
We all need to plan for the eventuality of giving up driving at some point. I'm going to add a little levity here right now as it kind of segues into another topic that we're going to be talking about. So you have the couple on the right, talking about thinking that maybe there should be a senior driving test. Now, it doesn't exist, but there are those programs through AAA and AARP. And here's the reason why they're thinking this, okay? Again, just to add a little bit of levity to a very serious conversation. So mild cognitive impairment, here's our little segue into a slightly different topic, okay? MCI is not always progressive, but often it is. When MCI is progressive, it can then be considered early dementia, but not everybody that has MCI develops dementia. Persons with MCI can exhibit cognitive decline beyond what is expected to be normal for the age, but are otherwise functioning well and do not meet criteria for dementia. Those that are having MCI don't necessarily, on the surface, need to stop driving. They need to, however, be self-aware and listen to those that they trust and that they care about, okay? The importance of being self-aware is invaluable, all right? So unlike those with full-blown dementia, you can continue to drive safely as long as you are aware of your skills. Should be pointed out that Australia, England, and Canada, by the way, do a lot more research on older driver safety than any other country, including the United States. And this study out of Australia says that adults with MCI exhibit a similar range of driving ability to cognitively normal adults. The issue becomes when that MCI does progress. And unfortunately, dementia is a progressive disease. Those diagnosed with dementia will at some point be unable to safely continue to drive. So a Sarasota Memorial Hospital study found that 3 out of 4 persons with dementia who continue to drive were eventually involved in an accident. 75% of the times, those who have dementia will get into an accident. So these symptoms and signs of dementia may be obvious to most of you, but I mention them for a reason. Each and every one of these symptoms negatively impacts one's ability to drive safely. Memory loss, faulty reasoning, impaired judgment, inappropriate behavior, disorientation to time and place, difficulties with abstract thinking, hallucinations, paranoia, agitation, gait, motor, and balance problems. We're going to get into some correlations with falling in a little bit as well. And neglect of personal care and safety. These are all individually going to have a negative impact on one's safe driving ability. So while the focus, concentration, and quick reaction time needed for safe driving tends to decline with age, it is truly accelerated when dementia is present. So we all believe we will know when we can no longer drive safely, and we'll stop when we know it's time to stop. Unfortunately, dementia skews this rational thought process, making it all the more important to listen to those professionals and those who care about us. Like much of this presentation, excuse me, it isn't rocket science, but it does need to be pointed out and openly discussed that memory and the older driver have implications, okay? Working memory, the definition, to retain information in an accessible state. It's an important driving quality because it allows you to follow driving directions, rules, and regulations, make good decisions while behind the wheel, and it keeps an older driver from getting lost. We mentioned this study earlier, not being able to maintain lane presence or difficulty with left-hand turns, directly impacting actual physical aspect of driving safely. But according to the study conducted the neuroscience research program out of Toronto, again, Canada doing a lot of research, memory impaired patients, excuse me, were more likely to cross the center line of the road and stray out of the legal driving lane than healthy drivers. They were also more likely to make mistakes turning left with oncoming traffic. These are reasons to seriously consider giving up or retiring from driving if they are happening to you. If you're feeling concerned about it, these are big reasons to talk with somebody and plan for retiring from driving. Again, fairly obvious, working memory deficits are linked to a significant increase in car crashes, American Journal for Nursing. Again, a little levity. If smoking marijuana causes short-term memory loss, what does smoking marijuana do? Okay, again, meant to just stir a little chuckle, all right, but memory loss is important. It's not something to take lightly, especially when it comes to driving. Getting lost results in more than just being late for an appointment or increased gas expense. It can cause frustration and compromises rational thinking. Here's a story, true story. Elderly driver crashes on Montana State University campus. So the elderly man became lost and drove onto the campus of Montana State, drove off the road onto the pedestrian highway near Montana Hall and couldn't find his way back out. He attempted to drive slowly down some stairs when his foot slipped off the brake, causing him to crash at the bottom of the stairs. First thing about this article, if you ever catch yourself driving slowly downstairs, it is time to stop driving. I don't think you need me to tell you that, but that was the first thing that hit me when I read this article. When the driver was questioned as to what happened, he said he forgot how to get home. Getting lost can be a lot more dangerous than just getting lost. Here's another story. This unfortunate man who had no issues with his driving ability. I mean, after all, he made it all the way from Cincinnati to Michigan. But unfortunately, the follow-up story the next day, after reading the story that a 93-year-old man was with dementia went missing from Cincinnati home, a 93-year-old man was found passed away in a car crash in Michigan. He was killed because of his memory loss and dementia, not his driving ability. Now we're going to move on off of dementia, even though there's a ton more that we can talk about relative to it and to memory loss. But we're going to talk a little bit about executive functioning in the older driver. So the definition of executive functioning is kind of the brain acting as the CEO of the body, all right? It manages all activities, planning, solving problems, organizing and directing, making appropriate decisions, working toward a goal, considering consequences, and working memory. As we age, And sometimes when we experience some illnesses and some abnormalities in our life, executive functioning has a tendency to decrease. So in short, executive functioning is the brain's ability to manage activities. It's the brain's CEO. I actually had some friends over the house last night. We were watching the Stanley Cup. They told me about an accident that their mom got into recently. According to mom, the reason for the accident was that the passengers in the back seat of the car were talking too loudly and she couldn't concentrate and excuse me, and made an inappropriate left turn, crash. This is an example of poor executive functioning. Mom kind of blamed the accident on passengers talking too loud. Oh, unfortunately, the reality of it was her executive functioning was starting to fail, and that distraction caused her to make an inappropriate left turn. So with a decline in executive functioning, driving may become unsafe. A decline in judgment, decision-making, predicting consequences, handling multiple details as they enter the brain. These are things that are certain to impair driving skills. Here's a tip, okay? Because we're going to kind of segue now into conversations of how we can talk with older drivers and understand exactly what's going on in their minds and try and accomplish extending somebody's safe driving career, but also be cognizant of the time when it is maybe time to retire from driving. So be respectful. Give specific examples. Don't just come up to your loved one or somebody or a friend and say, you need to stop driving because you're not a good driver. Give specific examples, like when we were driving the other day, I was very concerned about your left-hand turns. You've been drifting out of the lanes. Please be specific about these concerns. Just saying it's time to retire from driving does not do justice to the impact that this may have on that individual. Help them find alternatives. Be empathetic and understand that it is a very difficult transition. Who should do the talking? You can, by all means, corral as many folks as you possibly can, making it a holistic approach. Doctors, nurses, clergy, family attorneys, social workers, counselors, friends, neighbors, and of course, other family members. Those that care for you are sending you a message if they're talking with you in bulk about something as serious as possibly giving up driving. 1 out of 3 adults fall each year, okay? The reason why this is important is that tendencies of individuals who are falling are more likely to be involved in an accident, okay? 1.5 times more likely in an accident, 2 times as likely to be involved in a at-fault accident. A history of frequent falling can serve as a valid indicator in identifying older drivers that are at a higher risk for future traffic accidents. This is coming out of a University of Alabama at Birmingham study. So the Americans are doing some work on this. It's not just the Canadians, Australians, and the Brits. So it is nice to see that we are taking this very seriously here in the States as well. Something else, here's a good tip. Be fully aware of your medications. There are a whopping 95% of seniors using medications that actually impair driving. This is according to AAA. In a large study of 630 older adults, only 28% of them acknowledged some awareness of the potential impact that their medications had on their driving performance. That's according to, again, University of Alabama, Birmingham. There are things that we as caregivers and also older drivers can do to be proactive about this as well. There is a fantastic website, Roadwiser X, where you can go to it and put in your medications anonymously, and it talks to you about the potential interaction of those medicines and how they can impact you and your executive functioning. Okay, highly suggest checking out that site. 50% of what we do in the BDD program, the Beyond Driving with Dignity program, is focused on safety. We then focus appropriate course of action with a plan, and doing all of this while maintaining dignity and independence. Anyone can take mom or dad's car away. It's called a tow truck and can be done in minutes. There's not much dignity in this. Our program is designed to go through this process with dignity. This is an important piece. It should never be something that causes a loss of independence. The way that we do the program, Beyond Driving with Dignity, is we have self-assessment programs for older drivers. We perform these in 2.5, 3-hour sessions at your home, at your convenience. The goal is to extend one's safe driving career and come up with a plan for when it's time to retire from driving. There's my name and number, and I'm sure we can have the ability to share this after the presentation, but I'd be more than happy to assist in any way, shape, or form. And I think it's important that aging is a triumph, not a tragedy. And Henry Ford had a fantastic quote: if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you probably already know the answer. So thank you very much. For those of you that are already home, fantastic. If you're driving, please get home safely.
Thank you, Adam, so much for that. Adam, if you want to stop the share, that would be great.
I will.
Appreciate it.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all that information. You know, you're right. You were able to combine all the different, I'm very impressed. All the different
It wasn't easy.
presentations.
It wasn't easy.
I'm sure it wasn't. You took 3 presentations and managed to kind of combine them into one. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And I thank you so much for that. So there was a lot of information, guys, and I'm suspecting that first you have to absorb it a little. So we have a few minutes to be able to just kind of take your brain and see if we can kind of absorb all that information, because there's a lot of it there. And then this is a really good opportunity to ask Adam some questions. We could either do it through the chat, and Charles, you could check that if you'd like. And if not, you're more than welcome to unmute yourselves and to ask a question. We're open to them. Anyone have a question for Adam? Betsy, I think, do you have your hand up? You have to unmute first.
I know this is a difficult topic, everyone, and it's one that some may not take as seriously as others, but this truly has become a passion of the BDD professionals that are located throughout the country, and me personally. And it is a very serious topic, but I think it's very important to understand that myself and folks like me that do conduct this program and speak to not only older drivers, but also family members, and help figure out ways to have these conversations, and folks that are in the clinical field. Our goal truly is to extend somebody's driving career. But through this process, we can help those older drivers figure out when it is time to consider retiring from driving, and plan accordingly. And I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces to this. Don't wait for somebody just to come over and say, today is the day. All right. You have control over this and you should have input into it, but you need to be self-aware and understand that as we age, our driving skills will diminish.
Yeah, I think what Adam's saying is so important because I think and this has been true, guys, in all the presentations we've had with attorneys, financial planners, social workers, about pre-planning, about thinking before you are forced into making a decision that you don't want to make, or someone makes the decision for you. So the idea of being in control now and making some of these decisions and really thinking about it is so important. And unfortunately, most of us try to pretend that it's not going to happen and don't make it. And then, of course, then we are in a really bad crisis in the future. So Adam's really talking about planning, thinking, looking at yourselves, doing a self-assessment. So I really appreciate that because that's something, of course, we're trying to teach teach everyone. It's a hard lesson, but it's something we all need to do, which is to do a lot of self-reflection and really important. Anybody have a question? But you have to unmute yourselves.
Paula?
Question.
She's trying to unmute herself. I think people are struggling with the unmuting. Go ahead. Somebody who's got who's
I
on.
have a question. It's
Go ahead.
Barbara.
Go ahead, Barbara.
What was that website that he said, you can put in all your medications?
Sure. Let me get you the web address for that.
It was called Roadwise RX, correct, Adam?
Yes, roadwiserx.com.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You know what? If you'd like, if anybody's, either Adam can give it to you, or if you, I could try to remember, I'll send it out to people.
Or we could put it in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, Adam, could you do that? Could you put
I
it in
sure
the chat?
can.
That'd be great. That'd be great. So
Thanks.
Adam's going to put it in the chat, but if anyone else has questions, we can also get it to you if you need it. Other questions? Those of you who are trying to unmute, I can see some of you are struggling with that. If you have a computer, it's at the bottom left by the mute button. There'll be a red line through the mute button. You just have to press it. I think on an iPad, I don't have an iPad. Where's the mute button on an iPad, guys? Anybody?
Top right.
Top right, same idea. So it's either bottom left or top right for those of you that are struggling to unmute yourselves. I know that can be a little challenging sometimes. I get that.
So I have a question for, show me a raise your hands. Have any of you stopped driving at night?
There's one, there's two.
Okay,
But we have a
Have
lot of
any of-
people not showing. Those of you, anybody? We
okay.
have two up.
Well, I'm proud of you. That's fantastic because that means that you are self-aware. You know when it's not safe for you to drive. I just hope that you can extend that into all different aspects of your driving career. Perhaps you're only driving on familiar roads. That's a good thing as well. Perhaps you're not driving when you're tired, staying off the road during rush hour when there's a lot of activity. These are all good tips, okay? But again, you need to be self-aware and understand exactly how everything is impacting everything else.
I'd like to ask a question if I could, Adam, and I don't know if this is an area that you'd go into, or maybe not. But, I think for people that are spouses or caregivers and are dealing with their loved one who they feel they need to handle, the idea that that person might need to restrict their driving or stop driving and have to have the conversation. And you did talk about some talking points about being more specific about where they're. I'm just wondering if the person is resistant, any thoughts about how to handle that resistance?
Well, it depends as to what level that resistance is manifesting itself. If the resistance is a result of a loved one coming up to an older driver and simply saying, you need to give up driving, well, that person didn't necessarily handle that conversation appropriately. So the resistance might be stemming from the way that they were approached. I think you need to really understand the entire conversation and the dynamics of the specific situation. So it's difficult to answer, Gloria. You know, for instances where everything was done correctly and the benefit of the doubt was given to both the older driver and the person suggesting that it's time to give up driving and there's still resistance. Well, it might be time to talk with a medical professional. It might be time at that point to talk with somebody like myself, a third party, independent party that can help facilitate a self-assessment program. Again, at the end of these BDD programs, these self-assessment programs, I do not say it's time for you to stop driving, okay? 2/3 of the individuals who have been identified as good candidates to stop driving at the end of these programs, these self-assessment programs, understand themselves that it's time to stop driving. And when done properly, they walk out of that session, and it is a one-on-one. The family members are not part of that session, but they walk out of that session and they turn to their loved ones and they said, I've made a decision that it's time for me to stop driving. And that allows it to be done with dignity and with suggestions on now what to do, giving that person as much independence as possible.
Can you tell us what that program, what it's like? What is that self-assessment like? What do you do with the
Sure.
person? What's that like?
Yeah. Well, it's extensive. It's 2.5, 3 hours. A lot of discovery, a lot of communication, kind of just learning a little bit about the person. There's a lot of questions that we ask that are somewhat indicative of executive functioning, of memory capabilities. There are some tried and true tests that have been going, you know, the clock test, the Snails Grove Maze test, and some to some extent, some physical tests, some ways to determine how somebody can follow direction or understand exactly what is happening at a certain time. It's difficult to summarize what exactly happens over a 3-hour session, but please know that it is rather extensive, and again, done with dignity, with the intent to hopefully have the person say, you know what, I can still drive, I'm just not going to drive at night, or I can still drive, I'm just going to drive, you know, from here to Joanne's house or something along those lines.
Okay, thank you for that.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead,
I
Paul.
found my mute button. I have I'm a mover and a shaker, and what kind of facilities do we have for public transportation? There is public transportation, but it's not geared to the seniors.
You're right, it's not, and that's unfortunate for our population. You're 100% right, Paula. There are some options, of course, that unfortunately cost money. All right, there are
What are they?
Well, there are services that specialize in transportation for the seniors. There's a company, a wonderful company, owned and operated by a lovely woman. Her name is Linda West. She's been a social worker for many, many years. She owns a company called Heart's Wheels.
What's it
Okay,
called?
Heart Wheels. Heart as in I love you. Heart Wheels. Okay, and she offers a service where she can take seniors from A to B, wherever it may be. She's very busy, and she has the capability to take in those that may require a wheelchair or special transportation needs, and she does a
Hi.
wonderful job.
So what happened?
It was Laurel who called me.
Oh, okay.
What? Hello?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Ido.
Hello?
Sorry.
Yes, I'm here, Paula.
So her name is Linda West, and it's Heart Wheels.
Yes, if you like, I can give you her contact information right now. Let's see if I can. Or you know what, Paula?
Why don't you
I'm-
send it to
I
Adam?
will
Yes, or put
Send
it
it
in
to
the
me.
chat.
Well, send
Yeah.
it to me and I can send it out to Paula.
Will do. That's
I don't
exactly
want
what I
to
was going to
email.
suggest.
Yeah, I have Paula's email. I can send it to Paula.
I'm gonna put it in, I'm gonna put her phone number in right now. Okay, and if there's any other questions, you can certainly ask while I'm typing.
So where is she located? Is she in this area, another area, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so she's a good resource.
She's fantastic. She got into this for the exact reason that we were just talking about,
Right.
to help seniors maintain a certain level of independence and be able to get around.
That's
Okay.
good. There's another service that the county has, I think, but that's hard. The Metro.
The county offers some and there's some, 311 ride share numbers. I had shared with Gloria and Pam a few months ago, there are some state funded and federally funded programs. I don't have that information handy right now, but if you reach out to me, I can certainly do
How
my
do I
best to
reach
find
out
out.
to you? What?
Yeah, I mean, there are programs, there are, and different counties have different programs. Different towns have some programs. The North Shore has a few programs of their own, Project Independence. I mean, there's some programs that actually have vans for seniors, but Paula, you're not wrong. It's a gap in service on Long Island, and it does create a lot of anxiety for seniors when they think about giving up driving, because it is difficult. I mean, there's no question that leads to people retaining driving probably longer than they even want to, because there is not so much of an alternative. I got a very odd email this week where there is a new service. I'm trying to find out more about it on Long Island. Right now, it is only offered to a few South Shore communities, but it's going to expand. And it is almost like an Uber, but it's run by the county. You do have to have a smartphone. It's a nice mini. But you do have to have a smartphone. So it's very much like taking an Uber, but it is a van. I don't know that much about it. I'm trying to get more information. As I get more information, I will send it out. It seems like it's brand new. Just came out, just heard about it, and we will send out more information. But Paul, I think you're right. I think that element does impact
I think it's
decision-making. It
it's
does.
crucial. It's crucial that we do something about it, because Oceanside is only going to be older and older.
Mhm.
You're not
You're
wrong.
right.
It's
You-
older
you-
and older.
You're right, Paula.
The
It-
nice
it-
mini
it-
will run along Atlantic and Merrick Roads on the South Shore.
Yeah, I mean, we have to get more information about
It's a
that.
ride share.
I'll work on it if you need help.
And I just want to add a little bit more to this topic. A lot of older drivers and older folks, and maybe not a lot, I shouldn't say. So from time to time, I run into those that might be, adverse to technology. To utilize Uber doesn't mean that you have to use your smartphone. If you have a loved one, if you have a friend, if you have somebody else, they can order cars for you. And you can still make the payments to them, whoever you want to do it. So if you don't have the wherewithal today to order an Uber on your own phone, you can call somebody up, and have them order it for you. And I do understand that it is sometimes pricey, it does cost money. But when you do give up driving, you're at the very least, you are giving up gas expense, you are giving up insurance, you are maybe giving up a car payment. These are all things that might be put into a little bit of a cookie jar, all right? So you can use when you have to utilize one of these paid for services.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, any other, I'm sorry, any other questions, guys? Go ahead, Paula, go ahead. Any other questions, anybody?
I was one of the people that don't drive at night. And what's happened is many years ago, my father had dementia at the early stages, and so he was still driving. And at some point, he kind of got lost, and I had to go pick him up, and he had the car. And I told him we had to talk about stop driving, and he didn't want to do it. And it was kind of painful for the family, and I'm not so sure he thought it was painful. He didn't want to give it up. I asked him for the keys that day, and I said, I'm sure he's going to hit the roof when I ask him, but he didn't even know where he parked the car. So he gave me the keys. And went home. We had another sit down talk with the family. And after yelling and screaming and probably some tears, he said he wouldn't drive anymore. And I remember the whole thing so vividly that when my wife started complaining about my driving, I said, you know what? I'm not going to fight with her. She's a lot smarter than I am. If she thinks I'm not driving well, and I took a closer look at stuff, with the drifting in the lanes and going slow, braking when I shouldn't have been braking. I said, what am I going to fight her for? It's going to be dangerous, going to put her in danger if she's in the car with me. And so now, she drives. So we've still got the convenience of someone driving. But I didn't want to put my family and my wife through that conversation when I knew deep inside, that I shouldn't be driving.
Well, Mr. Cooperman, you are the model of this program.
I
Okay.
think it deserves a round of applause.
Yes.
It wasn't easy, and I still remember it. It was painful.
There's nothing about this that's easy. Okay. But remember, aging is a triumph. Okay. And as triumph, correct. It's fantastic. And we have to look at it with that positive perspective. Okay. And not everything that comes with it is going to be beautiful. Okay. But it is a triumph. Okay. And you did a wonderful thing, Mr. Cooperman. So thank you very much. All right. You set a wonderful example.
Tell my wife, stop yelling at me when I drive.
Stop yelling. Stop yelling, Judy.
All right.
I love it. That was great.
Okay.
All right. That's a hard act to follow, I have to tell you. If I would ask for questions, that's a really hard act to follow. Someone else have a question, though? Or a comment, because there's lots to comment on. Anybody?
This was an extremely helpful program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a lot to think about now and research and stuff.
Well, I'd be happy to assist you in any of that research.
I take notes. I have your name and number written down.
Okay, please, and anybody and everyone, don't ever hesitate to give me a call, even if it's just to ask a simple question, whatever it may be. And same with your friends and family. I'd be happy to talk with them. Not just about driving, but about anything that you're encountering as you're going through the aging process.
Yeah.
You have an email contact besides the phone number?
I do. I'll put it in. It's Adam at Senior Care Authority, but I'll put it in right now. And also, I think that
Send it out.
Gloria can send that out as well.
Yeah, I'll send all that stuff out. Or if you have a question, you can email me. Most of you should have my email. Yeah, I would think probably most of you do, but I'll put my email in the chat if you have a question. Just email me and I can send you all this stuff.
Right. And I also put the ridemini.com information in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And as I have more information on that, I did ask them for more. I will send that out. I just don't have a whole lot on it yet. I think they're still waiting. It just started. It just opened June 6th, so it's very soon. It's very recent.
What are you talking about?
The Ride Mini, the mini bus.
Ride share.
The ride share at Oceanside.
Need that information.
Yeah, I mean, we can give you the little bit we have, but I think that there's more information to come, is my hunch. And Pam put her information in the chat as well. All right, everybody. It looks like we got lots and lots of great information today. Thank you, Adam, so very much for all of this. Yay.
My pleasure.
Give
Thank
you a
you
round
so
of
much.
applause, well deserved. We appreciate all the information and the guidance. And if you guys have questions, Adam is available to answer them. If any of you have a loved one who you think would benefit from a self-assessment, I think we'd want to turn to Adam and make those arrangements. I think that would be amazing. Reminder that our next Parkinson's support session is in July, and we will be talking about care and aware and care, or care and aware, Charles. Do I have it backwards? I think it's care and aware.
Aware and care.
Aware and care, I had it backwards. Sorry about that. I could not get that straight. But interesting, Dr. Randy Todd, who actually is one of our own, he has Parkinson's and he is a representative, he's an ambassador from the Parkinson's Foundation, who's going to be talking about hospitalization and advocacy, what to do when you're in the hospital, how to approach that. We're going to send the flyer out. I think it's the last week in July, Thursday at 11 a.m., but we will send out that information. And just to remind you that we are doing a Parkinson's Arts Festival Monday, June 27th from 4 to 6. An afternoon, it's virtual, it's on Zoom, and it's going to be a fun, entertaining afternoon. If you're interested, email me and I'll send you out the Zoom instructions and register you. All right, everybody, have a great
last
rest of
question.
day.
Can I ask
Sorry?
one last question quick? Do
Go
you
ahead.
have, we're fairly new to this, so is there a way to see the older presentations you had?
Yeah, many of them are on our website, on the JCC website, either directly on the website or on our YouTube. So it's friedbergjcc.org, www.friedbergjcc.org. Many of them have been listed. If you have a problem accessing that, just email me and I'll help you through it.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great rest of day. Thank you, Adam, again, and we'll see you all real soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Father's Day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy Father's Day, everyone.
Yes.
Take care.
Happy Father's Day.